We made it happen. Jimmy was an incredible success. I don't know where he is. I got to find him. Gosh, I don't. Oh.
Oh yeah, George. Oh, George.
Right
George.
here. Yeah.
We did it, brother.
Yes, we
hey,
did.
Thanks to Dan. You know what? And in the ring with Dan and Benny. Hey, brother, man, hey, he's about the most cat. I just love him to death. I love you. Thanks for having me. Hey, you're the best. I'm telling you, brother. In the ring with
Dan and Benny.
Yeah.
We love you. Thank you so much.
Dan.
Mwah.
Oh yeah.
Hello, friends, and welcome to another edition of Dan and Benny in the Ring. I'm Dan Spashiano, I'm joined as always by the playa himself, Benny Scala. Benny, they are, as the TVs will tell us repeatedly for the next 2 months, we are on the road to WrestleMania. It's one of those seasons again. We've been doing it for years. We've always used WrestleMania as kind of the indicator of our seasons. So we're getting ready for another season of Dan and Benny. But how you doing, buddy?
Yeah, good. And we're actually at episode number 162. So we've played the equivalent of a full Major League Baseball season. And I just think if we could do this 15.24 more times, we would be Cal Ripken.
Right, consecutive.
Right.
Oh, that's funny. The Iron Man. I was at that game when I was a teenager, so good stuff.
Wow.
Yeah, his 21-31 game at Camden Yards.
The one when he broke the record, or
yeah, I lived in
wow,
I lived in Maryland at the time. They had the four numbers because when they built Camden Yards, they used the B&O warehouse as kind of a wall, between the stadium and the warehouse is Utah Street, not the state,
okay.
Spelled with an E, Utah. But they had the big banners and they pulled the 0 down in 21-31. It was a big spectacle. President Clinton was there. It was a really cool night.
I remember. Yeah, I do remember Clinton was there. Yes. I mean, there's a record that'll never be broken ever.
Oh no, never. And then he played how many more games? And then,
well, he was at 26, 20, like another 500 games almost.
Yeah,
like another three seasons.
He would have kept going, but he said that he requested to be benched because he said that he felt the streak because the Orioles had fallen off at that point, and he felt the streak was detracting from other things the team needed to focus on.
Yeah.
So I mean, he could have done it every day in game until because he didn't miss. From what I understand, he didn't miss, or if I remember correctly, he didn't miss another game until he retired. So
yeah,
he could have had, and then of course he was all-star, hit MVP of the All-Star game that last year. So
what a great ball player, and one of my favorites. Even though I'm a Yankees fan, you can't not like Cal Ripken and respect him.
No, you're absolutely right. And I remember they had these little. I've still got them and it's on the shelf in my man cave in here. But they were these little cardboard stand-ups. Kind of you punch them out, kind of like they got the little base at the bottom. I'm trying to think of what they would look almost like the cardboard cutout, the fatheads they have now.
Okay.
They were little cardboard. Yeah, they were little cardboard cutout stands, and it was Brooks Robinson, Frank Robinson, Cal Ripken Jr. and Boog Powell were the four in the first envelope because they were the four Orioles that had won the MVP, and then they had Jim Palmer and guys like that in the other. But yeah, so to think that if you were to do, we always talk about Mount Rushmores on the show. If you were to do a four Orioles, he'd be one of them without question.
Yeah, you got to have Cal, Brooks, Frank, and I would say Jim Palmer. But geez, I mean, who you're going to leave somebody off? Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, I would personally, and this is just me being an Orioles fan my whole life, I would have put Jim Palmer, even though, I mean, how can you not love Boog Powell? One of only four Orioles to ever win MVP. But yeah, I think Jim Palmer would probably put him up there. That's just me, that's just my bias speaking as a fan. And I've always had a sweet spot for pitchers. So, but
absolutely.
We got some feedback last year, Benny, and we talked about it. There was some, obviously, as we expand and we keep doing the show, there were some people that just wanted every once in a while, an episode with just the two of us talking about whatever we wanted to do and what we were going to talk about. And we realized one of the things that we pitched was some of the big shows. We would periodically do a review or a prediction show or whatever.
Right.
Well, we kind of got excited because the news broke last week. As we're recording this, it would have been last week that TKO released an official statement that Vince McMahon is no longer chair of the board of TKO. And before he officially left the company, he had already stepped away. Everybody from Triple H to some of the board members had said that he was king of England kind of thing. He was a figurehead with no real power, did no control over the creative process. He wasn't even backstage at events anymore. But we said, there's a noticeable change in the quality of the product, some of the atmosphere. We're going to get to it. Watching like Raw and SmackDown these last couple weeks with Kevin Dunn being gone, you can tell it's someone else directing and producing the TV show. And I think it looks significantly better. It's got that more modern ESPN sports look and less of the hokey sports entertainment stuff that he was doing. So we had talked about, since we're kind of getting back into accepting some of the modern product again, this weekend was my personal favorite of all the big events they've had. I've been a fan for many, many, many years, going back to the 80s, the Royal Rumble. And that's, such a unique event. So we were going to do, you and me, we were going to kind of talk about the Royal Rumble. But before we get to talking about the Rumble and the events that followed, I mentioned that Vince McMahon is gone from TKO completely. He did not leave amicably. It's not to say he was fired. He did legally resign, but he did so after the Wall Street Journal broke the story, a 67-page legal complaint filed against him, that he did. I mean, we're going to talk a little bit about it because it's gross and horrible, and I don't want to give it any more attention than it deserves. But the story that came out about a year ago. Vince had stepped down in disgrace after the story had broken that he had signed, he had paid off a bunch of women, something like $18 million that he had paid to them. The running joke being that he paid more in hush money than he paid for WCW, but
much more. Yeah,
he had paid a bunch of women to keep quiet and some horrible things that he'd been accused of. Well, what really got the ball rolling on that investigation was an anonymous tip involving a paralegal with the company. And the story came out in the Wall Street Journal last week that he, much like when he bought the territories or would buy the territories, he stopped paying her. He didn't pay what he agreed to pay her in hush money. The story is it was supposed to be $3 million. He gave her the $1 million up front and then installments, and he stopped paying the installments. So legally, they argued that voided the NDA, and now she's suing him and can release what had happened. And it's terrible stuff. I'm gonna kind of bounce this over to you because you and I were talking before we got on the air tonight. But what do you think, Benny? I mean, this is really, unfortunately, two things. One, I want your thoughts, and two, what do you think about how this put such a dark cloud over what was one of the best weeks the company's ever had?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, you wind up signing a contract with who did they sign the contract with? I'm drawing a blank now. Netflix for $5 billion for 10 years. I mean, wow. I mean, what a grand slam. And then, you got the Royal Rumble coming up, and then you have this. I read the whole 67-page complaint, and I mean, Joe, what a day. Lowry sent it to me. I thought, you know what? I'll read the first couple of pages. And then I read it. I said, I'll read a couple more pages. By the time I got to page like 12, I was hooked. And I went through the entire document. And like, I mean, if I had $1 for every time I said, holy shit, I probably could buy the WWE myself. But unbelievable.
You're a better man than I, because by the time I got through about a dozen pages, I still had to stop to take a shower because I felt gross.
Yeah. It was awful. I mean, it just, I can't even put the words to it, like what I felt after I finished reading it.
No, I said it on our appearance on the 30 with our Monty and Nefaro, that if even 1% of what's in that report is true, Vince McMahon needs to be in jail, and so does anyone else mentioned. I mean, the crux of the accusation, other than direct sexual assault, is accusations of human trafficking, where he literally bought and sold and traded her like a commodity to other men in the company, including, I mean, obviously not everybody's been identified, but the media, being as savvy as they are, have broken down that executive number one in the complaint appears to be John Laurinaitis, and the former UFC heavyweight champion who they were trying to sign a contract extension with appears to be Brock Lesnar, both of whom were involved in being, she was forced to make inappropriate content, adult content. She was basically bought and, like I said, bought and sold like a commodity. Go have sex with this guy or you're fired. It's awful stuff.
Yeah, I was just shocked. I mean, I've never liked Vince McMahon for many, many reasons. You know, the first being that he killed the wrestling that I love. He killed the territories. And,
right.
You know, I there's just so many things after that. I mean, I could make a list, but this is, yeah. I mean, just when you think it couldn't get any worse, it got a lot worse.
Oh man, this is going to be, you could do an entire, because they just announced the upcoming episodes for season 5 of Dark Side of the Ring. You could do an entire season on just this document. There's so much in there.
Absolutely.
And the sad thing is, this poor woman is, you know, this is one person. There was something like a dozen complainants throughout the different women that signed NDAs. This is one person, 67 pages of gross, horrible behavior. So, you know, there, like I said, if even 1% of what's in here is true, now I will say, in his statement when he resigned from the board and resigned from his position with the WWE, Vince McMahon did deny everything that's in here. Other members, obviously John Laurinaitis and Brock Lesnar, haven't commented publicly, and neither has anybody else involved. But I think it's interesting to see some of the fallout more recently, and I give her credit, love, hate or not. Ronda Rousey tweeted, I don't know if you saw, she tweeted out calling out Bruce Pritchard by name, saying that as long as Bruce Pritchard is still in that building, Vince McMahon works with the WWE. Like, Bruce Pritchard is he's a Vince mouthpiece, he's a pawn, he's a stooge, whatever you want to call him. And she said you cannot claim that you purged Vince from that company as long as Bruce Pritchard still works there.
Interesting. So I don't know what happened to him.
Yeah, I mean, she did it. The Bella twins, who obviously John Laurinaitis is their father, is their stepfather. You know, they came out and said that, you know, you have to give that. Obviously, they didn't come out and say, you know, it's true, but they very politely, you give benefit of the doubt to people. You know, you have to believe these women when they come forward. They want a world where women can feel free to speak up, and several others have come out and said they hope that some of these other women, some of whom maybe they're not getting paid either, the way that the victim was, and I hate to keep titling her. I don't want to use her name out of respect for the story, but because, you know, she came out, she wasn't getting paid, and I don't mean that in that she was demanding money. I mean, when she signed the NDA, Vince agreed to, it was an agreement. I'll pay you $3 million. You sign this NDA, don't tell anyone what happened. He stopped paying her, so it's like, well, screw you. I'm going to tell everyone what happened, and now, you know, she's hopefully too. She apparently, through her lawyers, the idea is that there's other victims that maybe weren't paid or haven't come forward. So, you know, kind of a Bill Cosby, Harvey Weinstein kind of situation, where it's like once the dam breaks, everyone else now sees the flag. Hey, maybe they're comfortable enough to come forward and speak out.
Yeah, I think we're going to see more of this. I don't think this is the one and only.
Yeah, I think it's sad, and I don't want to take away too much, because like you said, you sign the largest contract in sports entertainment history. This $500 million a year from Netflix is even bigger than the TV deal that the UFC had. Because Netflix, they made a big push at $500 million a year for 10 years with the potential for another 10-year addition. So they could have Monday Night Raw for up to 20, or I say Monday Night Raw. They didn't guarantee it's going to be on Monday night, but they could have it for 20 years. SmackDown on the USA Network starting in October, that's a couple $100 million a year. NXT on the CW starting in October, that's another, you know, what is it, 18 million, whatever it is. You know, so you're talking, they're going to get almost $1 billion a year for their TV streaming rights before they sell a single ticket or piece of merchandise.
they're minting money. They're printing
But the thing is, unlike before, we talked about it on the show a couple years ago when they had signed the current contract when USA Network when SmackDown moved to Fox, and it was like, oh, the company is the most profitable it's ever been, and then they had the layoffs during COVID, and they were making something like 500-600 million a year, but they were still laying people off. But the thing that the product was terrible. But now you're the most profitable you've ever been. I've been, this is just me personally, but like SmackDown is fun. Monday Night Raw, I've been watching Monday Night Raw like regularly now instead of just catching highlights or watching the condensed Hulu version. Monday Night Raw is better. You've got Cody, Punk. We'll talk about that. Drew McIntyre, the way he's been built up, and obviously the storylines with the Bloodline and Roman Reigns and the Judgment Day, and they've got so much compelling television now. It's a light switch. Like as soon as Vince McMahon left, and you saw with character changes and people getting called up and people getting re-signed, it was a light switch of like, holy shit, this product's better. And now I don't want to take away. I mean, you can't acknowledge wrestling without acknowledging what Vince McMahon did in the positive side of things. But as far as a human, oh God, awful. But it's just interesting to see. But Benny, I mean, I'm curious with your thoughts now. You've got $1 billion a year. Does that? Where do you go from there?
I mean, where do you need to go?
That's a fair point.
Yeah. I mean, it's a two-headed coin there. I mean, where's the incentive to put on a good product? I mean, if you have guaranteed money in the bank, there's really no incentive. You're not competing against anybody anymore because you're leaving AEW in the dust. I have to believe. And but I do think that with Triple H, I think there's always going to be a vested interest in coming out with a very, very good product. So yeah, I'm kind of with you. I mean, I've seen the last couple of weeks in both Raw and SmackDown, I've seen a definitely an improved quality of the show. And I want to watch every week. I'm a wrestling fan. I want to look forward to watching wrestling on Monday and Friday nights. I do.
Yeah, no, I wholeheartedly agree. And we talk about it on the show. I mean, between Raw and SmackDown and AEW, Dynamite and Collision and Rampage and NXT. I mean, you figure you got 3 hours of Raw, you got 2 hours of Dynamite, you've got 2 hours of SmackDown, you've got so right there, you're looking at 7. You've got 2 hours of NXT. That's 9. Rampage is an hour. So that's 10. I mean, right there, that's 10 hours a week just of WWE and AEW. And that's not to say anything if you're trying to follow Ring of Honor or TNA or the NWA. Their power program still running on. It's good time to be a fan. It's a lot of fun. But one thing I do want to ask your thoughts on, because you mentioned it, Triple H has gotten a lot of credit as the heir apparent for what he's done with the company, especially after the story with what came out about Vince. It was heavily implied, some of the dirt sheets, that the rift between Vince and Shane was Shane wanting nothing to do with the man his father was and not wanting to risk even becoming that. So I get to quote Cornette, "Thank you, fuck you, bye, I'm out of here." But you're talking about, as I mentioned earlier, that Bruce Pritchard, Kevin Dunn's already gone, John Laurinaitis is gone. There's you got to purge. TKO has to purge the Vince. I mean, behind me, for those watching on the YouTube, you see all my Redskins gear. When Dan Snyder sold the team, Josh Harris came in and pretty much, a new GM, new head coach, the janitor, and the guy who fixes the computers in IT. Everyone else in this building is fired. You got to start over. And that's kind of what TKO is going to have to do. They're going to have to purge the Vince McMahon stigma from the building. But I want your thoughts, because they have to, good, bad, or indifferent, they have to take a long, hard look at whether they keep Triple H around.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder, because when you were saying all of that, I'm thinking, that you said about Shane, I thought about Stephanie also stepping down last year. And what was that all about? Did that have something to do with this?
Yeah, because remember, she had stepped down kind of out of the blue, that she was going to go take care of the family. And then she only came back after Vince got removed the first time, as kind of a stopgap measure. But now she's gone again. And I mean, you have to, even if, and I've seen nothing of history or stories or personality or life to make me think that Triple H was involved in any of this. But even if he wasn't, he had to have at minimum suspected something. You would think, right?
Yeah, I think he walks away from this. I don't think he gets, he walks away with clean hands.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying his hands are dirty. I'm saying as far as TKO goes, I hope they keep him because he's done such good things for this company. But if you're gonna say if TKO's president and Ari Emanuel and these guys from Endeavor have come in and said we're gonna purge the Vince stigma if this is true, they have to take a long hard look at whether they keep Triple H.
I hope they keep him though. I really do. I think he's done a very good job. I don't think he deserves to be fired.
It's sins of the father kind of thing, no pun intended.
Yeah.
But moving to a much brighter note, we talked about it. You watched it live. I watched it live. I mean, how long has it been, really, Betty, that since we've both and yeah, obviously you were part of the reaction show on the Monty and the Pharaoh page. How long do you think it's been since all of us sat down at the same time and watched a pay-per-view live?
I couldn't even remember.
Probably years. And that's because we're excited
absolutely.
about the new product. So we wanted to talk about the Royal Rumble because this was great stuff. I mentioned in a pre-show last week when we were on the 30 that, this is the first time since 2002 that I genuinely didn't know who was going to win. Every year, and now granted, 2008 had the big surprise return of John Cena, so I can't say I predicted that one. But pretty much every year, based on the stories and where the direction of the company was going, you knew Cody was going to win last year. You knew that McIntyre was winning. You knew Lesnar was winning. You knew that Seth Rollins and you knew Braun Strowman was going to win the Great Rumble in Saudi Arabia. And, when Batista came back for his last hurrah, you knew he was going to win, even though Bryan was the favorite. And this year there was a good dozen people, at least 10, that you're like, I could legitimately see them winning. And it was exciting. It was good stuff. But we want to talk about the Rumble. So we'll get to you. First thoughts, the opening match now, and again, I give them credit. This was a 3 and change hour pay-per-view. Only had 4 matches, which is refreshing because, like I said, the AEW show in London had 14. And sometimes you can get a little much, but this 4 matches, 2 Rumbles, 2 title matches. But the show opened with the Women's Rumble match, and we'll get your thoughts on that, Benny. Starting, obviously, we'll kind of go in segments, but the first couple moments in the Rumble match, the big ones, just in the top 5, number 2 to come out was Naomi, who
that was a nice surprise.
I would say that was a nice surprise, but more importantly, and my jaw almost hit the floor when she came out and was doing the glow dance. Michael Cole on commentary, instead of calling her Trinity, he did call her Naomi. That's her WWE name. But he said while she was gone, she was TNA Knockouts champion. And I was dumbfounded. I'm like, holy shit, they just mentioned TNA, which, remember last year when they had Mickie James as surprise entrant while she was actively the women's champion. But they mentioned it, and then lo and behold, number 5, Jordan Grace, the current Knockouts champion. So what do you think about, and I fun side note, because they asked Triple H about the Forbidden Door at the press conference after the Rumble, and he pretty much implied that he thinks the words Forbidden Door are stupid. But what do you think about that? The door being open where WWE is willing to bring in TNA talent and not only acknowledge them, but have champions and present them as strong, credible, credible other promotion.
I just think at this point, with the contract, with Netflix and everything else, I don't think they're really worried about a TNA or an AEW. I think at this point they're so far ahead of everybody else. They can do whatever they want.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, obviously, I don't think there's much of a chance that there's Endeavor is going to buy TNA or anything like that. But it's neat to see that. I mean, could you imagine 20 years ago, 25 years ago, here's the Royal Rumble and surprise guests, they bring out, DDP and Glacier or somebody like that from WCW and present them as like, Inferno, look, it's those guys from the other channel. And then actually give, I mean, you saw that with with Sting, when Sting had his little run in the WWE where he lost to Triple H at Mania, which by the way was really dumb.
That was very dumb.
Because the whole thing evolved into WCW, WWF, or Monday Night Wars, and look, DX is better than the NWO, and we got to vanquish WCW for the last time. And the whole thing was just petty. This is another thing I think is kind of the Vince, because Vince was hands off last year. There's no way Vince has 100% control over anything and acknowledges, not only, like I said, and it's not even just that they acknowledged the TNA, but both Jordynne Grace and Naomi, who was the Iron Woman for the match, had really strong showings and were presented as credible.
Yeah.
So I think it's great stuff.
My only thing, and it goes with the whole match though, and Naomi was in it for what, like 62 minutes.
Actually, she I was about to say just over an hour. Yes, 62 minutes.
But she was laying in the corner, maybe quite like 58 of it. That's my one. I mean, and I guess you really have to do that when you have a match like this, because you can't have everybody going at once. But you have it's almost like a car wreck, and you have these people, laying in triage for minutes at a time while other people get their shit in. But I mean, no, she made a good accounting for herself. I thought Jordynne Grace looked great. I mean, that was a nice, pleasant surprise.
Yeah.
Somebody said something about Natty, but I guess, kind of Natty is Natty. You got to throw her in there, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, and Natalya was, she's still a workhorse. If you're going to have somebody that you need to work with everybody that's coming in. And she was, I mean, even Natalya was in the ring for 20 minutes. So,
right.
It's not like she just got chumped out.
I mean, you knew she wasn't going to win, but I mean, she wasn't. She didn't embarrass herself either.
Yeah, not at all. I think it's interesting that, excuse me. I think it's interesting to say, because you had, your core, Natalya, Naomi, and then Bayley, who ended up winning, came out third. She lasted. I mentioned Naomi being the Iron Woman. Bayley actually lasted a minute longer. She was in for 63 minutes, but she won. Naomi was the longest of the non-winners, is what I meant to say, coming out. But I think too is so she comes out. You've got obviously Jordynne Grace, Candice LeRae, and then through 7 through 10, you had Asuka, and Bianca Belair came out at 10. She was another one in there for 47 minutes. I was surprised. You had Asuka come out at 7, and Kairi Sane came out at 11. And Kairi Sane was only in the ring for 5 minutes, Asuka for 13, or I think the official time was 12:59. But, Asuka won it. I get they're tag champs, and you're building the story that Bayley doesn't have any help anymore. But the way those two kind of got chumped out quickly felt a little off to me.
Yes, I agree.
And I will say, and I want your thoughts on this, is this middle section between like the 8th entrant and about 18, because 19 was Nia Jax, and that's when obviously Piper Niven came out, but Nia Jax came out at 19, and that was when the meat and potatoes of the match started. But you had some moments. My wife and I, like I said, we had people, we were watching it as a group. I will say that it kind of got a little sloppy in the middle. Some of the moves looked a little rough. Like you said, there were noticeable spots where somebody would take a body slam or a forearm or something simple and then roll out to the corner or to the edge of the ring and just lay there for 5 minutes. But I will say I give them credit. They were in the ring. I remember last year and the year before, I commented that there were moments in both those women's rumbles where women were leaving the ring, like rolling out under the bottom rope and catching their breath at ringside. And that looked just really, that was a really bad visual because you had people they're in the ring 5 minutes and they're hanging over the apron blown up. And I know some of it was gimmick. I'm not saying they're out of shape. All those women could easily kick my ass, but it was a bad look. This time, at least they stayed in the ring. It looked more fight to the death kind of thing, like the Rumble should be. But then, 19, you had Nia Jax come out, in Chelsea Green, Caden Carter, Tegan Knox. There was, I guess, some of the good ones in there. Zelina Vega from SmackDown. She was another one that surprised me. She was in for 20 minutes. But then Nia Jax comes out. Here's your powerhouse. You're building up this big moment. And she comes in, I'm going to be the wrecking ball. And Becky Lynch, 21. to bring the story. But then this is obviously you start getting towards the end. So now you're in the middle. You're pushing your last few. You got 10 minutes, maybe 5 minutes left of people coming out. What are your thoughts at this point in the match, Benny?
Yeah, I mean, I was wondering if certain people were going to come out, and they did wind up coming out at the end. But I mean, yeah, it was a nice flow. I mean, there were little surprises here and there. They saved, I think they saved at least to me the best for last, or at least close to last.
Yeah, well, and that's what I'm going to get to. The final four, you had 27 through 30. Although I must acknowledge, because I made a note of it. You know me, Benny. I'm the very first person to be critical of comedy wrestling. People like your Orange Cassidy and your Joey Ryan, and people whose entire gimmicks are built around wrestling is stupid and look at me, I'm an idiot. There are ways you can have comedy in wrestling and it be done right. Bobby the Brain Heenan is a great example. Every time that man talked, it was funny, it was entertaining, and he was a goof, but he never made the sport look embarrassed. So I have to acknowledge at 24, Valhalla comes out. Michael Cole gets all excited that she's wearing her antler crown again, which was something he had mentioned about previously on commentary about, man, I missed the antlers, and he was so excited she had them, which I thought added a nice touch. I will say, for as many unkind things as you and I have said about Michael Cole's commentary, without having Vince in his ear, he is noticeably better. And Pat McAfee seems to bring out the best in him. But
oh yeah, absolutely.
So Valhalla comes out, and then R-Truth's music hits, and he comes running to the ring, and he kind of does the goofy look around like what's going on. And Valhalla's confused, and she's angry, and Adam Pearce comes out, and they're arguing. And the joke is, of course, that R-Truth, he had the number, but he came out for the wrong Rumble. Like, no, Truth, you idiot. This is the women. Go to the back. You don't come out to the men's Rumble. I thought that was funny, and it was the kind of funny that to me it didn't take away from the match. Like it made me laugh. No. R-Truth is a national treasure, and good for him. But it wasn't that kind of funny that spat in kayfabe's face. What do you think?
Nah, his delivery is absolutely priceless. It just is, and he just
right.
He never fails, and it was just that little element. It wasn't a big thing, but it was enough to kind of distract you for a minute to get a good laugh.
Yeah, exactly. And then so you do your fun. You're having your fun. Then the last four, you got 27, Roxana Perez from NXT, great showing. 28, that's the big moment everybody was waiting for.
That's when I popped.
Yeah, the in-ring debut of Jade Cargill, AEW's former TBS Women's Champion, undefeated until her final matches with Chris Statlander. Jade Cargill, first time in a WWE ring since signing with the company. She comes out, looks like $1 million. Well, let me rephrase that. They booked her like $1 million. Her body slam and one kick both looked a little sloppy, and anybody that knows wrestling, you could clearly tell that she was not leading the match. For those that don't understand what I mean, is you could tell she was following orders. There were other people in the ring kind of calling the match for her, which is fine. Some people can't. I mean, we've had some legends on the show, Benny, that have said straight up that they could never call a match. I mean, some of the guys that were big stars and wonderful talents. Sometimes you just need somebody in the background going, "Hey, kick," yeah, okay. But man, she looked like $1 million, booked her strong, looks great, just walks and looks like a star. The storm is coming, the white hair, but then she body slams and eliminates Nia Jax by herself, which I thought was a huge moment.
Yes.
And then they have the big stare down build up between her and excuse me, they have the big stare down build up between her and Bianca Belair, which I'm imagining that'll probably be a Mania match. What a star making moment that was. And then 29, Tiffany Stratton, another NXT star that looked good. And then 30, the surprise return of Liv Morgan back from her shoulder surgery and unfortunate run-in with the law. And the crowd was glad to see her back. And then, I mean, so before we get to the ending, Betty, what are you thinking at this point?
Yeah, I mean, I thought, well, they checked all the boxes as far as the talent. They didn't miss anybody. And, the action was, sometimes it was a little bit stilted. I have to imagine it's very, very difficult to pull off something like that, from a choreography standpoint. Just to, and I think they did the best they could. I mean, like you said, they kept them in the ring this time. Granted they were, comatose in the corner, but
yeah,
it wasn't horrible. And I mean, like I said, like you said, I did pop for when Jade body slammed Nia Jax. I mean, like, she is green, but I think there's some huge upside potential there.
Oh, absolutely. But that spot, because she picked her up kind of a shoulder, almost like a Scott Steiner deadlift, and then still did the one arm flex. So like she's holding Nia, and I mean that's the raw power and just how that was. You talk and you see the muscles and the smirk, and she's got the biggest woman on the roster on one arm. Throws her out with like she's nothing. Talk about a star making moment. Good for her. But then obviously it comes to the end. You got Liv Morgan, Jade Cargill, and Bayley. Liv and Jade fight at the ropes. Bayley kind of weasels her way in, knocks them both out, wins. I called that on our predictions bit last week, where Bayley winning I think is the right choice, especially with where they're going to go with it. But what do you think? You think right call there?
Yeah, no, absolutely, 100%. I guess the question is now, what's going to happen?
Well, for those that hadn't seen, because they had a spot on Monday Night Raw where Rhea Ripley came out and basically intimidated all of Damage Control and just kind of backed Bayley into a corner, like in her face, like if you pick me, I'll rip you in half. And Bayley announced that she's going to make her pick on Friday. So I personally, if I was booking, obviously, I like I said in my prediction, I think Damage Control turns on her, kind of Evolution style, thumb down on the clipboard. Triple H and Batista beating up newly faced Randy Orton.
Yeah.
And I think Bayley, she's due for another singles title. She hasn't had any title in better part of 4 years. She's due for, and she's already popular. She's due for a face turn. And I think she can be the face that takes down, now that Damage Control is like super heels. I think she can be the face that takes them down. I think it's the right call.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But from good to not so good. The second match was the Fatal 4-Way for the undisputed. Excuse me. Let me make sure I say this correctly. The undisputed WWE Universal Championship. Which, God, I hope when Roman loses the title, they just start calling it the WWE Championship again. What's the point of absorbing titles into each other if you combine names?
Right.
Just and I said from years ago, I thought Universal Championship was a dumb name for a title anyway. But Roman Reigns defending against AJ Styles, Randy Orton, and LA Knight. I told you my thoughts on this one, Benny, but I'll let you go first. What'd you think?
Yeah, I mean, they played it safe. It did nothing for me. I mean, it wasn't a horrible match, but if I was a professor and I got handed this for a term paper, I'd probably give it a C. Yeah. Maybe.
Yeah, that's what I said when we were talking about it yesterday, or was it earlier? I think this morning. To me, this felt flat. I mean, I get it. Roman's not losing the title, but it's almost formulaic. Lather, rinse, repeat. If you remember back in the 90s when the fans started turning on Hulk Hogan, and later on with Roman and John Cena and the WWE side and WCW with some of the stars there, they turned on Hogan. Same reason is fans don't like when matches become formulaic. It's Roman Superman punch, couple spears, kick out of 2 or 3 finishers, almost get beat, bloodline interferes, either Jimmy puts the foot on the rope or Solo beats someone up. Lather, rinse, repeat, 1, 2, 3, Roman's still champion. And it's even more frustrating when he only does it a couple times a year.
Right. Yeah, there's really not much to that championship at all.
Which I will say, I give them credit. We're recording this on a Tuesday. Last night on Raw, when Cody came out to make his announcement that he was picking Roman to defend his title, Seth Rollins came out. I don't know if you saw the segment or not, Benny.
I did actually, yes.
Yeah, and you know what? I predicted Cody and Punk were going to be one of the two, and if guys, in my predictions, I said if Cody wins, he's got to go against Roman and beat him because that's how you finish the story. But when Seth Rollins came out and he cut the promo. So you talk about the promo of his life, probably the best promo I think I've ever heard Seth Rollins cut.
I thought that was absolutely. I mean, I think he's a clown most of the time, but he was spot on. He was great. And
you know what? As the old joke goes, Benny, no lies detected. When he said, this is, even though the world heavyweight title is the B title, we know that, but he said it. He's like, this is the workhorse title. I've defended this title more since its creation than Roman has his title in 2 years. This is the because remember that was what they used to call the Intercontinental belt. That was the workhorse title, and he. Do you want the title your dad would want to go after, your workhorse Dusty Rhodes title, or do you want that Hollywood Hulk Hogan, Roman Reigns, John Cena title where people defend it once every 6 months and maybe if we're lucky we see him on TV? And like I said, no lies detected, but I still think that and spoilers because we'll get to the men's rumble here, but with Cody being the challenger, it has to be Cody finally beating Roman, because I can't, unless even if you bring The Rock in, there's no one else besides Cody that is as satisfying a conclusion of the long title reign. But I do want to get your thoughts on that one before we move on to the next match, Benny. Seth Rollins, they're building up Seth Rollins versus Cody. Do you think there's a chance that they keep the belt on Roman just a few more months? Because if he keeps it until September, he beats Hogan's record. Do you think they keep it on him until he's number 2 behind Bruno?
Well, I got to tell you, I don't know if you've ever gone to like a sales class and they'd say, sell me this pen. And then your job is to sell the other person the pen.
Right.
Seth Rollins sold a pen last night.
Yes.
I mean, that was absolutely phenomenal. I thought there wasn't a Chinaman's chance in hell that Cody was going to go against Seth. I after that promo, I was like, this is going to happen. He drew me in.
I 100% agree. Like I said, I think from a storyline perspective, Cody has to be the one to beat Roman. But after that promo last night, especially with CM Punk, the promo he cut at the beginning of Raw where he announced his tricep tear, that he's missing Mania and everything, I want to see Cody and Rollins now. I want to see that match more than Cody and Roman, because at this point, no offense to Roman Reigns, I don't care about him anymore. He wrestled 11 times last year. They weren't all for the title, and every one of his matches is the same. He's boring, and I'm sorry, but that doesn't interest me anymore.
Well, number one, I think Cody and Seth would be a much better match. Number one, and
from a wrestling standpoint, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And number two, how is he not finishing his story? I mean, he's still winning a world championship.
Yeah, I think the only selling point is the belt that's around Roman's waist traces its lineage back to Backlund and Hogan and those guys. So that's the title that Dusty said he wanted and never got. The title that's around Rollins's waist is brand new, because unlike the old world, remember when they brought the world heavyweight title in and they kind of traced the lineage and compared it with WCW. That title that Seth Rollins has is brand new. It didn't exist. That's not the title that Dusty went for. And Dusty was a world champion. It's not like he was never a world champion. He just never won the WWF title. So if Cody wants to go for the title that his daddy never won, he's got to go for the WWF title, not their B-list title. Which now, don't get me wrong, I think have him if he goes against Rollins, have him win that title, and then maybe go for the world title later if you're going to keep it on Roman until the fall. But I'm torn now, Benny, because on one hand, you got to complete the Roman story and have him beat Cody. But after that promo with Rollins, that's the match I want to see at Mania now.
So maybe we're jumping the gun here. What I thought, I initially picked Punk to win the Rumble, and Joe picked both Punk and Cody, and
kind of a Luger Bret Hart thing.
I thought that's not a bad idea because they're both strong. Then you send Cody off to fight Roman, you send Punk off to fight Seth, and everything's great. I wonder if they just called an audible now because of Punk's injury. And I wonder if they were actually supposed to win both win it, and that because Punk got hurt, they called an audible in the ring and they just had Cody win it. What do you think?
I mean, we'll get back to the U.S. title match and we can talk about the men's rumble, but I personally think that the way because when you can see the moment when Punk takes the Future Shock DDT from Drew McIntyre and he McIntyre doesn't, and again, shit happens, it's wrestling. McIntyre didn't quite tuck him enough and Punk landed on his elbows, and you could see the second he landed, his arm buckled and he grabbed at his elbow.
Yes.
Which anybody that's ever seen an injury, if you're grabbing at the base of your elbow, that's your tricep is no longer connected the way it should be. And he waved off a doctor. Which, by the way, oh my God, more respect than I had going into the match for CM Punk, because I've never torn my tricep, but I have greatly injured it, and that was impossible to lift anything of any substance with a full what they call it, a micro tear. But for him to have torn it to need surgery and still be able to hit Cody with the go to sleep and pick people up and finish the match, that's impressive. So I mean, good for him.
Says a lot about him. Yeah,
it does. Yeah, you talk about grit and integrity, and his promo, the open Monday Night Raw, where he talked about, this is just a bump in the road, and he mentioned his friend that has cancer, and he's like, that's a real fighter, and yeah, people want to make fun of me that I didn't do well in the UFC, but I went for my dream anyway, and my dream is to be at WrestleMania. So there's always next year. I don't think it was an audible. I think Cody was winning from the start. Although I do think Cody winning was predicated on whether or not they have The Rock for Mania. Because if they have The Rock for Mania and he's not wrestling Roman Reigns, then that's a wasted opportunity. So if Cody wins and Cody goes against Roman, they don't have The Rock for Mania. If they have The Rock for Mania, then Cody winning and picking Seth, maybe you do it that way. But I think the promo last night, the promo last night where they put the seeds of Cody and Seth instead of Cody and Roman, that felt more like an audible to me than anything. But I think Cody winning was the plan going in. If they weren't going to do Cody and Roman, I think at that point you give it to Punk, or but I don't think anybody would have faulted Punk for winning and then coming out and saying, hey, I'm more hurt than I thought I was, But no, I think, especially with the whole back-to-back first time since Austin, I don't think it was an audible. I think Cody winning was the plan. And I think despite what happened last night, I still think Cody Roman is going to be the way they go. Although I personally, now I want to see Cody Seth, but we'll see.
Yeah.
But before we get, because we break down the men's match, they had the U.S. title match, Logan Paul defending against Kevin Owens. This was another match that I was surprised because it was a brawl. It was a good match. I enjoyed it. I thought the ending was well done with the whole brass knucks, and the fact that they called it a weapon instead of insisting on calling it a foreign object. You could tell that was a nice change. I had no idea who that guy was that came out to distract the referee, apparently. And honestly, I think the announcers didn't do a very good job explaining who he was, because I wouldn't be shocked if even they had no idea who he was. Apparently, he's somebody from Logan Paul's social media profile.
Okay.
But then of course Waller and Theory come out and they have the beef with Owens, and then they give him the knucks. And now the story that I was reading this morning, apparently Kevin Owens, whether he was injured before or during the match, but he wrestled that match with a fracture in his foot. So there's he was injured too and toughed it out. But I thought that was a good match. It sets up whatever they plan on doing with Logan Paul at Mania. I think it was the right call, not taking the belt off of him now. And I wouldn't be shocked if Kevin Owens gets his shot later, but I think it was the right outcome and I enjoyed it. And what surprised me was the match was only 14 minutes long. It felt a lot longer than that because they got so many good spots in 14 minutes, which usually when matches start getting past 12 to 15 minutes, they start feeling like they've been 15-minute matches. you know. But this reminds me, we always joked about the Broadways, you know. You go watch some old, Bruno, go watch, Billy Graham, and next thing you know, that's a 30-minute match. Doesn't feel like you've been watching wrestling for 30 minutes. This
Right.
was a 15-minute fist fight that didn't feel like 15 minutes, and I give him credit for that. What'd you think?
We've had George Shire on our show many, many times, and one of the things, one of the episodes I remember talking about what is missing from the past, and we brought up, I don't know who brought it up, but the endings, like a count out, a draw, a disqualification, and how like, you really rarely see, you never see a draw or a count out, or
right.
But to have it end by a DQ actually was refreshing. I enjoyed that. Number one, like I said, because you don't see it.
Yeah.
And number two, because it does leave the door open if they want to do it again.
Right. And then if their next match, they could say, look, well, I had you if not for the DQ. So their next match could be no DQ. And then you have a no DQ match that actually makes sense, instead of we're always critical of AEW, where they're, next week we're going to have, whoever wrestling whoever, and it's going to be a Texas bull rope death match of doom and the ring is on fire. Why? What storyline element is there for that to be your first match in the feud? Like, it isn't. Swerve and Hangman had that blood drinking death match, and it was the second match in their feud, and they're still feuding. Like, how is a blood drinking death match not the ending? Like, remember when the cage and the cell and the big match, that used to be the end of the feud? Now it's match number 2 of 7, Right.
I think they should have a stipulation of, if Kevin loses next time, that he has to join Weight Watchers and Planet Fitness.
Oh, be nice to the man.
Yeah,
he's great. No, I thought it was great.
He's great. He really is.
And I think Logan Paul is perfect for that smarmy, I'm better than you heel. And I give Logan Paul all the credit in the world, not just his wrestling ability, but the little things, the facial expressions, the timing, being in the right spot, ring awareness. He's got stuff down that takes years of experience to pick up. And he's only been doing this this is only not even his 10th match. Like, I give him credit. He's a natural, and he clearly loves and cares about the business the right way, which is good. Random cat sighting. And yes, no one wants to see, guys, look, YouTube. Sorry. For those that aren't watching on YouTube, I have a cat behind me that wants to be on camera, so it's my cat Maleficent. Where was I? Oh yeah. So I give Logan Paul the credit in the world. I thought was the right call. But then they move on to in the final match of the night, men's main event, men's Royal Rumble, which I think was the right call, obviously ending with the men's match. I thought it had bigger stakes and a bigger story to tell. But we'll get through the first 5, and I want your opinion, because the first 5 was really a good start of the match. You had Jey Uso number 1, Jimmy Uso number 2. Great first 2 pairing. That's the first time I think they've confronted each other since Jimmy turned on him, because Jey got traded to Raw. Number 3, Grayson Waller, good shit heel. Number 4, the returning Mr. Charlotte Flair, Andrade.
That was nice.
That was, and the crowd popped for him when you heard the El Idolo sound, and I absolutely love his entrance with the mask and the robes, and he's got where he kind of transitions from the luchador to the non-masked wrestler. I think it's a great look. I'm glad to see him back. He was horribly wasted in AEW, and he's a Triple H guy, so I know that they're going to take care of him, and he's got a lot of good in-ring talent, so. And then number 5, Carmelo Hayes, NXT call-up, who's been wrestling in the tournaments. But yeah, start of the match was great stuff. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, I popped for Andrade. I didn't expect that. I like the guy. I think that, great look, great work. Promos now, but I mean, that's what you get managers for.
Yeah. Then middle section, you had your this is when the workhorses start coming out, the guys that can go for a while. You had your Shinsuke, Santos Escobar, Dominic Mysterio, Carlito, but then at number 8 and number 11 respectively, Karrion Kross and Bobby Lashley. Neither of them in the ring very long, because they Lashley eliminated Karrion Kross, and then Karrion Kross pulled Lashley out of the ring despite having been eliminated already. Big brawl on the outside, because that's continuing the feud between the Karrion Kross alliance and Lashley and the Street Profits. So, I don't mind using the Rumble to further storylines because neither of those guys was going to win, and it doesn't make either of them look weak. So I think that was well done.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I mean, Karrion Kross, though, I mean, what's it going to take to revive that guy's career?
Yeah, you mentioned that when we talked about him last week. I think it was last week where you said, this is the final it for him. If they can't do something with him now, I just can't take him seriously. They're going to have to do, NXT, what they did with Baron Corbin, send him back to NXT and make him a monster again. But yeah, I don't even think that would work. But I will say though, it's nice to excuse me. It's nice to see Paul Ellering on TV again.
Absolutely.
I always respect what he did. Kaiser came out, Austin Theory, Finn Balor. Number 15 was Cody Rhodes. He was going to stick around for a while. Cody Rhodes was in the match for 40. Final count was 43 minutes, 21 seconds. Then you had some beef in a row. Bronson Reed and Gunther at 16 and 18. 17 surprised me. 17 was Kofi Kingston. And apparently he's just a new, because I jokingly said to my friend when we were watching that I thought Kofi was a replacement for somebody because he came out in fur-lined shorts that I had never seen him wear before, and it almost looked like he had borrowed somebody else's gear. But that he was on Raw the next night wearing the same trunks, so I assume that's his new look. But Kofi was only in for a couple minutes, and he got thrown out with no fanfare. They didn't even try and do a save from elimination spot. So maybe
what's with that? I mean,
I know you can't do it.
That's his trademark, though.
Yeah, but remember the last 2 years. Well, the first year they tried something and he didn't quite catch the wall, and then last year when Gunther threw him, I don't know if it was supposed to be a save spot because Kofi landed on a chair, but when he landed on the chair pretty much exploded. And Kofi face planted into the table. It looked really gnarly because Gunther just threw him like a missile. I don't know if that was supposed to be something or if it was just a bad landing.
Right.
But they kind of abandoned that look. But speaking of, I want to go back for a minute. Speaking of save spots, I forgot I made a note about it. Kairi Sane had a spot where she was pushed out of the ring and kind of did the Spider-Man, both feet on the
yes,
not the ring. I don't want to say the ring apron, but the LED sign that was at ringside.
Yes.
And I thought that was, talk about core strength. Now, she ended up falling, like couldn't quite save herself. But I'm curious because they build up constantly. You saw it with Kofi a couple years ago when he landed with Xavier Woods caught his foot on the plate of pancakes, where they said, oh, both feet have to touch the floor. So why didn't Kairi Sane just put one foot down? I get, but I thought it was a nice moment. But yeah, I completely forgot. I'm sorry to circle back. I wanted to mention that because I give her credit. That's, you talk about to hang like that with your feet up. That is a level of core strength that you're going to need more than a few sit-ups to get. So good for her.
Yeah, no, that was a very nice moment.
Yeah, but then you had, like I said, 18 was Gunther. He was out there for about a half hour. Big powerhouse. He was top 3. Then number 20, Braun Breaker coming out. Big NXT call up. You talk about a house of fire. He had 4 eliminations. Now he was only in the match for 5 minutes, but you talk about making them count. But I want to get your thoughts on this one, Benny, because we talked about it at the beginning. It was first reported by Dave Meltzer, and then Nick Hausman and some others have jumped on. Apparently, Braun Breaker was the Brock Lesnar replacement. That was supposed to be Brock Lesnar's spot, come out 5 minutes, wreck a bunch of people. And then if you remember, Braun Breaker got dumped out after dumping out Omos by himself, which was impressive considering Omos aside. Dominic Mysterio, weasel chicken shit heel, pushed Braun Breaker out. The story is that was supposed to be Brock Lesnar. And then that was going to build up to Brock Lesnar against Dominic Mysterio at Hell in a Cell. What are your thoughts on that? Because obviously Brock Lesnar being named in the Vince McMahon lawsuit, they want to keep him at arm's distance too.
Right. No, I could absolutely see that because in fact I thought that when he came into the ring, it's like this is shit that Brock Lesnar does. I mean, just guy after guy, just right out of the ring, and then getting eliminated like that. That was definitely and Brock's not going to stay in there that long. So
right.
But they got to change Braun Breaker's name. Make him a Steiner, for God's sakes.
And that's what gets me. And I take nothing away from what he's done, because he has been absolutely a dominant powerhouse. Because
Yeah.
the his real name is Bronson Rechsteiner, or Ricksteiner, how that would be pronounced. But how do you have a guy that you could naturally call Braun Steiner or Rex Steiner, because Rex being a nickname of his, and you go with Braun Breaker? Like, it's not even a storyline. Brian Pillman Jr. being Lexus King is a storyline. He specifically said he picked a name because he didn't want to be Brian Pillman Jr. and it's in storyline why he's not Brian Pillman Jr. anymore. Braun Breaker, they acknowledge his Steiner heritage, but they never talk about why he's not a Steiner.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you have a guy that looks like that can move like that, and not name him Rex Steiner or something that, I mean, Braun Breaker doesn't seem like the marquee. What is it they used to say? Can it pass the marquee test? The Rock versus Braun Breaker. Does that look like a marquee you sell WrestleMania on?
No.
Yeah. But no, powerhouse. He looked like, I said it with Jane Cargill, but Braun Breaker came out looking like $1 million.
He looked great. Yeah.
Yeah. Number 22 interested me because it was Pat McAfee from the announce desk. And apparently he mentioned on his podcast that was a legitimate rib. Pat McAfee said that he did not know he was going to be in the Rumble. Neither did apparently Michael Cole or Corey Graves. So their reactions were all genuine, which I think is great. I'm all for the occasional rib, but McAfee kind of, I'm going to get in the ring. No, I'm not. Yes, I am. No, I'm not. Now screw this. I'm jumping at Drew Carey style. I'm going to eliminate myself. I thought that was great stuff. And I remember telling my friend, I was like, good for him, because McAfee sold it. But apparently he wasn't selling it. The story is now that was legitimate rib. McAfee did not know he was going to be an entrant.
Yeah, he worked that very well.
Yeah, good for him. And then we go back to our friends in the comedy world. 23 is JD McDonough, and 24 was R-Truth. And of course, the spot being McDonough comes down. Braun Breaker had just been eliminated. Braun Breaker spears JD McDonough's soul out of his body. Which, by the way, Roman Reigns needs to take notes, because Braun Breaker's spear is phenomenal looking compared to Roman's from the title match. But, and then, so McDonough's laid out. Here comes R-Truth. Next out, he puts McDonough in the ring, who's immediately eliminated. I thought that was a fun moment, kind of a proven, once again, R-Truth being a doofus played into the, again, goes back to what I was saying, where you can have comedy without the business looking bad. And JD McDonough doesn't come out of that looking like an idiot. He sold the hell of a spear and then got eliminated because R-Truth is a doofus. Right. So I think that doesn't make him look stupid. But I thought that was good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then, of course, R-Truth immediately, he gets beat up, Damian Priest, and then The Miz next, The Miz next, and then Damian Priest beating up R-Truth. I had that backwards. Number 27 was my pick originally, CM Punk. CM Punk comes out, pop of the night, I think, up to that point with CM Punk when that first chord of Cult of Personality hit. I mean, it's great to see the crowd still love him. Especially some of the reactions he was getting from the Young Bucks faithful and the AEW crowds, undeserved. 29, Drew McIntyre, and number 30, the surprise return of Sami Zayn from his injury. What do you think? Before we get to the ending, what do you think of the Rumble up to this point?
Not bad. Okay. Honestly, in my mind, as they counted down, I was waiting for number 30, and in my mind, number 30 was going to be The Rock. So when they announced Sami Zayn, to me, very anticlimactic, because the grade that I gave this show, whatever it was, it would have been A+++ if 30 was The Rock.
Well, I'm not gonna lie. A part of me, after all the teasing they had done, I didn't expect it, but a part of me genuinely thought number 30 was going to be Hulk Hogan after they had played his video package like 4 times before the Rumble started. But that was I mentioned that as part of my predictions on the show we did last week, was if The Rock had come out in the Rumble, he was winning it.
Of course, yeah.
So I'm thinking if number 30 is Hogan, it's going to be a fun spot. If number 30 is The Rock, he's going to win it. But I said, and no offense to Sami Zayn, I like Sami Zayn, but I said if number 30 was anybody but The Rock, then it was going to be Cody and Punk, and we were right. Here comes Sami Zayn.
How do you
It
even
did
do
remind
with Hogan,
me.
though, if it was Hogan? Like, how do you get him out of there? Like,
Well, yeah, he can't take a bump, but I think it would have reminded me of that Rumble, 2008, when Superfly Snuka came out as a surprise entrant, and then the next entrant was Roddy Piper, and Roddy Piper took his shirt off and pretty much stripped down to his underwear, his compression shorts before he got in the ring, and it was like those two just kind of threw some old man punches, and then were both gently pushed out of the ring by Kane. And that's what I assume they would have done something like that, but no. It reminded me of the Royal Rumble that Batista won when his comeback, because everybody was wanting Daniel Bryan, and number 30 was the returning Rey Mysterio, and he got booed for the first time I ever remember Rey Mysterio getting booed because he wasn't Daniel Bryan. But no, I think you had your moments. I will say, and I talked about it before with this match, that you have to go back to 2002. For me personally, it took 22 years before I remember a Rumble where I could pick 8, 10, 12 people to be winners, and I would fully understand storyline wise and accept them winning. You had but when you get down, you got your final 4. You got Cody, Punk, Gunther, and McIntyre. So there's 4 people I could see winning
easily.
Easily. Now at this point in the match, unfortunately, is when we get to the poor. Drew McIntyre hits Sam. We talked about it earlier. Hits Sami Zayn with the Future Shock DDT. Sami Zayn hits CM Punk. CM Punk lands on his elbows and tears his tricep. As he's since come out and said that's what happened. He rolls off. Now I didn't know how badly he was injured, but I commented watching the match. CM Punk was gassed. Like you could he almost, his chest almost looked like it was turning purple from how badly he was struggling to breathe. And I said, I know he's got better cardio than that. I remember telling my friend at the show when we were watching it live, I'm like, something looks off because Punk is gassed. And it turned out, yeah, he wasn't gassed from cardio. He was gassed from the sheer volume of pain he had to have been in. I mean, anybody that, like I said, that's some of the biggest nerve clusters in your upper body, tearing a tricep. But McIntyre goes out. Punk eliminates him. Gunther, Cody knocks him out, and then you have the big stare down, Punk and Cody, and those two have a great back and forth. Cody, the Cody cutter, the crossroads, the go to sleep, and then Punk goes for the as they say, go to the well one too many times, goes for the go to sleep. Cody catches the foot, throws him out. Of course, I thought it was great timing because Punk, when he was picking him up, you could hear him mouth the words, "I didn't come back just to lose to Dusty's kid."
I didn't wait 10 years to lose to Dusty's kid. Yep.
Immediately loses to Dusty's kid, which I thought was a great spot. I knew he was going to
lose to Dusty's. The minute he said that, I thought, okay, well, he's going to lose.
Great spot. Well, you could tell when Punk kept pointing at the sign, looking at the sign.
Right.
You're like, he's not winning. Which I also think would be a good setup for a possible heel turn if he's going to turn on Cody eventually. But Cody won immediately. He's pointing at Roman. So what do you think about the end of the Rumble?
That part I liked, and he had a point at Roman because that's the end of the story. But as we saw on Monday night, maybe it's not the end of the story.
Yeah. No, it certainly felt like that's where you have to go with it. But I thought that was a great moment where it cut to Roman and Paul Heyman in the booth or in their little private box, and Paul kind of slides the title over like, he wants your belt, Roman. I thought that was great. The crowd popped. This is the first time since Steve Austin in 97 and 98 winning back-to-back, which I think is a great testament. Cody is the biggest star in the company right now. Punk is their biggest attraction by far, but Cody is their biggest star. He's the biggest babyface in wrestling, period, I would argue.
Yes.
Right. Yes, I wanted to see Punk win. I thought that's where they were going to go with the story with Punk and Rollins. But I think Cody, at the end of the day, Cody, Bayley were both good choices.
Yeah, and I think they both earned it. I have to say, though, and I've been to Trop many, many times for baseball games, and it's like going to the public library. It's always very, very quiet. And the announced crowd, I think, was, 48,044? Yeah. That was the quietest 48,000 people I've ever heard.
You
and
know,
with a couple of exceptions.
I'm glad that you mentioned that because I made a note about it because I talked about the pop when Cult of Personality played, and the crowd seemed pretty excited with Cody winning. But I was going to ask you about that because you're a Florida man. There were times when it felt almost too quiet, and I wonder if that's the acoustics of the stadium combined with them turning the sound of the crowd down. Because there's no way you pay that kind of money to go see the Royal Rumble just to sit on your hands. Like,
I mean, I have to tell you that I think the largest crowd I've ever any game I've been to is maybe 23,000
okay,
when the Yankees came to town. But it's still, I mean, it's not very loud. I've never heard that place loud.
no, maybe I mean it's some crowds just are a little different. Maybe I love how they kept calling it St. Pete. Maybe the St. Pete crowd was a little quiet, but I did make a note about the crowd being quiet. But I just assumed it was the acoustics of the building because it did seem
I had a note.
There was good energy in some points.
I had a note that maybe it was like mimes get in free night, and
40,000 with 25,000.
Yeah, everybody was just signing.
Yeah, the local mime college. Well, the crowd couldn't cheer when they're all trapped in boxes.
That's right.
40,000 fans, 25,000 of them from the local mime college. I like it. But Benny, final thoughts to you. Final score of the Rumble. What was your final grade?
I'm going to give it a 2.5. Yeah, not above average. Mike Sanders 3.0. I'm going to give it a 2.5 C plus. So, some good spots. It did what it had to do. We on the Monty and the Pharaoh after show, the word serviceable was used many, many times, and I think that's appropriate. I mean, you could use that to describe it. And then Jimmy Farrow said several times that they played it safe. It was, they did what they needed to do. Now I would have liked to have seen more surprises, though. That I mean, Rock would have made, like I said, Rock would have made it an A plus, no doubt. I was happy to see. I was happy to see Naomi back. I was happy to see Andrade back. I was happy to see Jordan Grace. I was really happy to see Jake Cargill. I mean, they did have their share of surprises, but a lot of it was very predictable. We knew who was going to win. I mean, we pretty much were, we're thinking Bayley was going to win. We pretty much thinking Cody was going to win, and we thought Roman was going to retain, and all of that happened.
Yeah, there were definitely no surprises. Which now I'll say I was a little kinder. I said I gave it a B. I mean, it takes a lot to be an A show. I think it was really held down by the heavyweight title match. I thought that, to me, that felt flat. If that had been a better match, I would have definitely looked at a B plus grade. But I made a note when I said no surprises. Jordan Grace, Naomi, there were some in there, but I mean, like the occasional legend, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Diesel, somebody like that usually shows up every once in a while. I was kind of looking for, especially in the women's match, it's neat to see, when Lita or Molly Holly or somebody like that you hadn't seen in a while. There was absolutely zero nostalgia in either match, which
That's
I mean,
true,
I get you've got a young, good roster. You've probably got the roster is probably the strongest it's been in years. So I get you don't need the nostalgia, but sometimes it's nice to see it. I think
it's kind of heartwarming. You do want to see it, but on the flip side, you don't want to take that spot away from a younger talent.
Exactly.
Either, so.
And I there was nobody, and I even said, like, JD McDonough was only in the ring for a few seconds, and they did the whole Chelsea Green storyline in the Women's Rumble where she was only in for 5 seconds last year, and now she was fighting to be in for a longer time, which I thought the spot they did where she kept getting squished, I thought was just very well done.
That was enjoyable.
And I can't think, and I made a note of this. I said I wish there was more nostalgia, but I cannot think. There were 60 entrants between the two Rumbles, and I can't think of a single person I could point to and say that person contributed zero, and that could have been the nostalgia pop.
Right. Yeah, they all did well.
Yeah. So I gave it a B. I think it's a great show, and the Raw after was phenomenal. A lot of good build up and promo there. Drew McIntyre kicking Sami Zayn's head in the main event. There's your biggest heel in the company right now besides Roman. Great stuff. Seth and Cody. CM Punk, I recommend to anybody, even if you don't like the current product. It's on YouTube in its entirety. It's 17 minutes. Go watch CM Punk's opening promo, Monday Night Raw. It is probably one of the best promos of the modern era as far as the pure heart and emotion that goes with it. This is it's the Ric Flair retirement. It's the Daniel Bryan announcing his concussion, retirement. It's one of those emotions where you can't script this. You could tell they gave Punk a microphone and said, "Go for it. You got 20 minutes." And
I even think Seth's was pretty realistic too. And
yes.
Two epic promos in one night. And if this is going to be the direction they head in, it's got my attention.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think it's important to note that, that's always been one of the complaints of the modern product is Raw is 3 hours long and it might only have, 30 minutes of wrestling in 3 hours. That segment between Cody and Rollins and Punk, that was the better part of, and with commercial breaks, that was the better part of an hour of show.
Right.
And I didn't 0% of me is mad that there wasn't wrestling during those moments. No. I don't care about, there was no wrestling for the first half hour if the first half hour is phenomenal promo work. What we don't like is when they have terrible promos and backstage stupid stuff and there's no wrestling and it's garbage. But when you're replacing wrestling with good talking, you can build a story. And Benny, yeah. Come on, you're a territory man. Watching, Bruno, Jimmy Valiant, any of these guys cutting standing at ringside with the announcer. There's David Crockett holding the microphone. My thoughts from Ric Flair, whoever. That was what wrestling was the heartfelt promos, and the matches came second. So it's nice
the promos are what sold the tickets to the arena.
Exactly. And it's nice to see that again, because now think about this. Assuming, now I've already heard some conspiracies that it might be a bit of a work, or maybe he's not as hurt easily as he's letting on. But, assuming that everything Punk says is legitimate, torn tricep, I'll be out 3 to 4 months. He's going to miss Mania, or maybe 3 to 6 months. He's going to miss Mania. He's going to miss the Elimination Chamber. But when I come back, the very first person I'm going after is Drew McIntyre. Then I'm going to go win a title in Main Event Mania. When CM Punk comes back from this injury, that's going to be you're selling out whatever arena he's coming to. You sold that out last night. The second they announce in 3 to 6 months, let's say in June, or May, June. The second they say CM Punk returns to Monday Night Raw in wherever, Los Angeles, Chicago, wherever we are, that arena is sold out after the promo last night.
Agree.
And it's great stuff. So, we got a lot of good stuff coming up, Benny. It's our last show in January, and it's hard to believe January's over already, 2024. But we keep chugging along. Dan and Benny, anywhere podcasts can be listened to. Obviously, we thank our YouTube friends, Monty and the Pharaoh, where our videos upload. Benny, you and I will be back on to 30 on Thursday. I'll be coming back for my title after you cheated me out of it last week.
Yeah.
I'm not saying, I don't want to be critical. I'm just saying that their points are distributed about as fairly as Angel Hernandez strikes. So it's pretty rough.
Let's be honest. I won solely on the basis of having a jar of Vaseline and a poem.
No,
otherwise you're the champ.
I'm coming for you. Like I said last time, when you turned my mic off, I said, Giannetti go through that window's got nothing on you betraying me on that one.
I gotta up my game.
Bruno and Sabisco need to take some notes about what a real heel turn looks like.
Yeah, really, absolutely.
But great show tonight, Benny. Thanks. And it's like I said, anywhere podcast was due. So for the playa himself, Benny Scala, I'm Dan Sebastiano. Have a good night, everyone, and we will see you next time in the ring.